Through the written word and the spoken word, may we know your living word. Amen. I would like to I'm recording my sermon live. Laura suggested, why don't you get it live so you can sort of get people's reactions and whatever else. I thought, okay, I'll do that. It's a little bit awkward now. A lot of gear going on. But I would like to thank Dennis and Rosemary and Michael for that beautiful play on music. I've never quite walked out to such a beautiful piece. It was lovely. For the sake of clarity, let me begin this reflection on today's gospel readings from Matthew 13 with a thesis statement. Christians in the first century were preoccupied with the world ending. Christians today should be focused on the new world beginning. Who here remembers the hysteria of the Y2K virus? Yeah? That was a big deal at the time, wasn't it? We were sold the idea that a fatal computer glitch existed in the world's computer systems, that they wouldn't be able to cope with their internal calendars clocking over from December 31st, 1999 to January 1st, 2000. Planes were going to fall out of the sky. Nuclear missile silos would malfunction and launch. Hospital power grids were going to shut down. Basically, the world was going to end, apparently. I remember sitting in my car that next morning. The vehicle's computer management system had clocked over to this new day like it would any other day. And I sat there thinking, once again, we've been suckered and sold a gallon of snake oil for the umpteenth time in history. And believe me, it was sold. Companies promising to save us from that certain doom had made a mozza, going to businesses and government departments and basically doing very little to protect us from a largely fictional threat. I was born during the Cold War and grew up being routinely told that somebody had inside knowledge of the imminent end of all things to sell. Of course, some threats were and are real. Global nuclear war was a genuine threat at the height of US-Soviet tension. I believe climate change unchecked will lead to decades of instability and adversity. Outbreaks of voracious disease like the current COVID-19 situation, or in the past Spanish flu or smallpox or black plague, have had the reach to kill millions of people if they are not properly managed. But too many folks look to these actual existential threats and rather than focusing on what must be done to contain the crisis of the day, jump straight to, see, I told you the end times are here. Because that's the thing about constantly banging on about the end of the world. One day you will be right, after the dozens of times you were proven wrong. It makes sense to me that common people in the first century accepted as reality the imminent end of life as they knew it. A, they were going through truly awful times. B, looking for closure on the uncertainty of existence seems like a universal human hobby. Over our lifetimes, we've had superstitious doomsayers point to nonsense like the predictions of Nostradamus or the Mayan calendar. And we've had biblically illiterate Christians reading the book of Revelation like it's a horoscope for our times and not specifically about the fall of the Roman Empire. To me, they all look as foolish as the end of the world is nigh nutters at the end of the 10th century who went around Europe convinced that the calendar couldn't possibly clock over to the year 1000 AD. Even more pervasive, though, across all of history, more so than predicting the immediate end of all things, has been the eternal insistence that things were better in the olden days. This often takes shape on insisting the youth of today are morally unanchored. Believe me, that has been going on forever. 400 years ago, the Reverend Thomas Barnes wrote, the wonderful English of the day, "Youth were never more saucy, yea, never more savagely saucy. The ancient are scorned, the honourable are contemned, the magistrate is not dreaded." The Roman poet Horace once declared with absolute confidence that every single generation is worse than the last. Our sire's age was worse than our grandsires. We, their sons, are more worthless than they. So in our turn we shall give the world a progeny yet more corrupt. That was in the year 20 BC. Boy, oh boy. If every generation since 20 BC has been a downgrade, humanity must truly be up the creek without a paddle. I don't buy it. I see examples of human greatness in the past, and I see the promise of greatness in our younger generations. As Jesus says in Matthew, if we're being trained for the new kingdom, then we bring out of the treasure what is new and what is old. The past holds a lot of ugliness to put aside. The present always offers newness that can feel foreign and should be evaluated with wisdom. What's clear is Jesus points us ahead to a new way, a new world, a new kind of kingdom that hasn't yet been known. Jesus points us to a full relationship with God that has not yet been lived. Our Christ loved quoting the prophet Isaiah, but he never once speaks about a return to the glory days. He talks about a restoration to fullness in God that will be a return to a home we've never yet been to. Nostalgia earns a lot of sales, whether you're marketing politics or product. Tell us you're going to return us all to the confidence and optimism of our youth by making whatever great again, and you'll have people lining up around the block. Tell us we're fallen angels. Somebody stuffed it all up by eating whatever fruit, and we're inherently bad, and we'll insist that, oh dear, we have to travel backwards to the good time because somehow that's where you find God. This is not the gospel of Jesus Christ. We look for him coming in ways and places we cannot predict. We open our eyes and look for that treasure that's hidden. We haven't lost anything. We live for Christ's promise of finding. Peace be with you, friends.